This is Pastor Ryan Rush, and I have come up with a proposal I would like to present to the Church Council of Good Faith Car. Each year, my preaching has a theme, and sometimes I stick closely to the theme, and sometimes not as closely. But I really want to take the theme seriously next year. And so I've developed what I've labeled here a multi-pronged, year-long event focusing on John Wesley's and United Methodism's distinctive doctrine of Christian perfection. If you have never heard of that, if you don't know what that is, don't worry. I plan to take a year to explain it, but it is part of our identity, it's part of our fabric, and it's really a spiritually powerful thing. But let me show you what my proposal is, and that way you can be thinking about this. The basis of this year-long event is going to be a preaching series. It's not a mini-series, it's more a mega-series that lasts all the way from the first Sunday in Advent, which is the last Sunday of November of 2015, and it goes all the way through the third Sunday in November of 2016. And it's a preaching series, and it's a worship series too. What I mean by that is, first, the centerpiece of the event is the Sermon Mega Series. And before we get to how the series is constructed, this is the basis of why I wanted to approach this topic this way. One of the things John Wesley wrote was entitled A Plain Account of Christian Perfection, because it was a hallmark teaching of his, and it deserved explanation. But one of the things that caught my eye as I was recently going through is toward the end he says, "Therefore, all our preachers should make a point of preaching perfection to believers strongly, constantly, and explicitly." And it is a thing that I have mentioned in sermons, but it's not something that I've really given the attention it deserves. And I don't have much excuse, because when I was ordained, I had to make certain promises. And as you'll see, part of the articles of religion, or rather the confession of faith of our church, that is in the protected doctrinal standards, says of Christian perfection, which it calls entire sanctification, it says, "Through faith in Jesus Christ, this gracious gift may be received in this life, both gradually and instantaneously, and should be sought earnestly by every child of God." And I think that's a beautiful vision. Here's a promise I had to take when I was ordained. They ask us all this, elders or deacons. These aren't the only three questions, but the first three are, number one, have you faith in Christ? Number two, are you going on to perfection? And number three, do you expect to be made perfect in love in this life? And if you don't say yes, then the rule is you're not Methodist enough to be ordained. It's that central. And the more you read it, the more you learn it, the more beautiful it becomes. The doors it opens into a life lived more closely with God and transformed. So I don't want to talk a whole lot about what the Wesleyan notion of Christian perfection is. It would just take too long, and that's why I've planned a year. But what I want to do is to talk about what's my approach. How do I want to handle this? So this is not a part that really requires approval. This is just sermon planning that I've done. But my preaching theme is Life Perfected. Life Perfected. So we move on. There are 6 phases that I have programmed in through the year dealing with perfection. The first is the season of Advent, the 4 weeks before Christmas. The theme there that I have built in is the Father's promise of life perfected. And so for that theme and every other theme, I have written I haven't written the sermons yet, but I have written titles for the sermons and selected scriptures that will fit. And I'm going to go and I'm going to make outlines for that. And you'll see what else I do. But the second theme moves from the Father to Jesus. So for Christmas, the 12 days of Christmas, and then the time leading to Lent, Jesus, source of life perfected. Lent is Jesus, exemplar of life perfected. And then Easter is Jesus, that's Easter season, the 50 days of Easter. Jesus, the giver of life perfected. And then we move to the third person of the Trinity during the first half of ordinary time after that. The Spirit, the planter of life perfected. And finally, having developed this idea over all that time, the second half of ordinary time, which is 13 weeks long, is living the life perfected. And that's where we get really to the bones of the thing. But we don't want to jump in there. We want to spend some time thinking about this before we get there. And it's all very scriptural. There are certain themes that go along with all of this as well. Now, there are obviously some exceptions. I mean, for example, what if the pastor gets sick? What if the pastor has to be gone to annual conference? Whatever it is that calls me away. It's really not good for the pastor to be there every Sunday anyway. So when I can't preach, whichever lay speaker I get to do it, I'm going to give them an outline. Now, it's not writing out a whole sermon, but it's showing them these are the points that we need to hit to keep on target with where we're going. And then they can build it and they can preach it and develop it however they like. So they'll have the chance to have the freedom to do that while also staying on board. But remember also, and this is point number 2 on the screen, we do have some Sundays where I just don't preach at all, and no one preaches a part of a program. So on UMW Sunday, we may have a preacher, but not someone who's part of this program. Consecration Sunday definitely has its own theme. More than one Sunday has a theme based there. So during those times, we're going to do those things. But I am going to also, at a different time, record the sermon with a video camera and make that available online. And we'll talk more about that in a moment too. But this way, the sort of structural integrity of the program can be maintained while still allowing for these special Sundays. What we've been doing lately for each season is in worship, sticking with one song for some time as the call to worship, the same song every week. What I want to do, because each of my 6 phases has a guiding scripture to it that will unfold as we go through the year, I'm going to write a little call to worship hymn for each of these 6 phases of the year, based on phase 1 is New Covenant from Jeremiah 31, phase 2, the coming of the Word from John 1, phase 3, Jesus and the Law, Matthew 5:17 through 20. Phase 4 is the least of these, Matthew 25. Phase 5 is the Beatitudes and King David. The Beatitudes are in Matthew 5:1 through 11. That's what the hymn will be based on. But the sermons also do a lot of reaching back to David. And then phase 6, love conquers sin. That's ultimately what Christian perfection means. And that's 1 John chapter 3, verses 5 through 9. So I'm going to make a hymn that we will sing at the beginning of the worship service for all the Sundays of this particular time, just as we've already been doing with calls to worship. So that's what I'm providing. That's the basic skeleton of the program, and that's enough. I mean, that we can do and nothing more. But there's so much more we can do. For no extra money, here are some things that we can do to supplement that. I am already about to redo our website. It's expired. And along with doing the normal things that websites do, providing contact functionality and advertising things, we can also promote our program through the website. This logo, this green circle with the blue and red words, I want to put this out there because a visual symbol is very strong and very effective at tying things together, bringing things to mind. So I want to promote it on the website. More than that, we also have social media presence. Right now we have a Facebook page. Um, social media is free. And so I want to upgrade to where we have a Facebook and a Twitter and a YouTube at a minimum. And when you have those things, you can also share your logo and your brand sort of on there. And it's just to keep it in people's minds. If you're on Facebook and you see the church thing, you'll see the logo and it will connect you to all the rest. Okay, so a series of fireside chats. We've had these in the past. Kim has done some on British monarchy and stuff, and this was her idea. Since we're going back to fundamental Methodism here, she thought, wouldn't it be fun to have a series of fireside chats based on the life of the Wesleys? We want to include Susanna in there. She's very important, especially for the United Methodist women. But also the life of the Wesleys, the friends of the Wesleys, how Methodism developed in the early days, and some of the interesting things around that. And Kim has volunteered to help with that. Again, that's no cost at all. That's completely free for us to do. I'd also like to investigate having a pastor's book club. You see in John Wesley's plain account of Christian perfection, he gives an account of how he came to teach this stuff. And there are several books that were important to him. I've looked at all of these books. I've downloaded them on Kindle. The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis is a Christian classic, one of the main classics that we have for anybody. But these books, Holy Living and Dying by Bishop Jeremy Taylor, Serious Call to Devout and Holy Life by William Law, and also on Christian Perfection by William Law. These are, they're not baby books, but they are readable books. You don't have to have a degree in literature to read these books. And then the last thing is itself, A Plain Account of Christian Perfection by John Wesley himself. So, I want to do 2 semesters, a spring and a fall. This will be one night a week. And do 16 in the spring and 16 in the fall. The reason I have it set that way is because that lets you average about 40 to 50 pages a week. It's not overwhelming, and it's something that we can work our way through. This would be just for anybody who's interested in doing it. The cost of the books is also not prohibitive. It's a little over $40 for everything in the entire class. But we'll come back to that too. Also, I have a video camera and a tripod. I don't know right now if our video camera setup that we use to pipe the service into the nursery is something that we could record with. But if it's not, I've got my own thing. And honestly, it's a thing that we need to upgrade anyway. That's a capability that we need to have, so that we can provide people with videos of so and so's baptism and so and so's wedding, that sort of thing. But anyway, I want to record these sermons and make them available on the internet. There's a number of ways we can make these sermons available, but it's free to do, and there's no good reason not to do it. You can see whatever it is that we decide to adopt, even if it's just, we're not going to adopt anything but my preaching that I have worked out. I'm going to write about that in the November newsletter article, and I'm going to let people know, pending what you decide. This is what we've decided to do. Let's get excited about this. This is the new theme. I've already got newsletters covered up until that point, but that would be the perfect time. Just as I'm using PowerPoint to make a video right here, and you can tell by my uhs and ahs that I didn't write this presentation out, I can write something out and create another video just like this that would be a promotional video of the options that you choose to embrace that we'll talk about. Letting people know our Life Perfected year is coming up, and this is what you can look forward to. We can put that out on the social media. We can put it on email. We can put it on the website. We can even play it. We time it out, see how long it is, make it short, and then play it a few minutes before worship starts in the sanctuary on Sundays. Get people excited. Let people know what's happening. Now, this is only possible. This is not a guaranteed possibility, but I've been talking with some people at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, and it may be that I can get a professor of computer science to assign one of his students who writes apps for smartphones to write us one pro bono and use it as a project for his class. And what the smartphone app would do would just be a quick and easy way to connect to the church using your mobile connection. And you can watch those videos that I mentioned on your phone. You can see what the church schedule is on your phone. You can do whatever you need to do on your phone and stay constantly connected to our Life Perfected campaign. Okay, now that's all free. I mean, none of that has cost us a dime. What we have here doesn't cost us a dime either, but what it is, I'm calling it saleable supplements. There are certain things that we can give people the opportunity to buy through the church that will help with this campaign too. Let me show you what that is. T-shirts. If you go to customink.com, you can get t-shirts with the logo on it. It wouldn't necessarily look just like this. I made that graphic myself, not them. But anyway, $11.89 for something like that. That's a good price for a t-shirt, and I know that people enjoy getting t-shirts. So there's that. Coffee mugs with Life Perfected logo printed on both sides, $11 from Vistaprint. Little pens. These are good to distribute and give as gifts too. They're a tad pricey. If you get 250, it's $1.66 a piece, and that seems like a lot. $100, I think, is more like, 100 pens, I think, is more like $2, and then it goes up from there. The max is $4 for a pen, but again, you can kind of see on the picture. We've got the logo, we've got the address and number and website of the church. Okay, now here's something else I'm doing that I haven't mentioned. So I told you I'm making outlines of all of these sermons so that I can pass them off when I'm not going to be there to preach. I'm also using them to actually shape and write a book based on the sermon series. It won't be a book of sermons, it'll just be a book, but it's going to hit all the bases that the sermon series does, and I'm calling it Life Perfected. And I'm going to have that done way in advance of the end of the church year and shop it out to publishers. If no one will publish it, I can publish it myself. And in any case, this would be a thing that when you get to the end of the year, you've gone through the whole thing with Life Perfected, and we're getting ready to maybe choose a new theme. This is a good memento book to take with you. And so that's what that is. Okay, here are some things that I'm calling negligible. It doesn't cost very much, but I can't in good conscience say it costs zero either. So for those books, for the book club, I think it would be cool to make these little stickers, which we can print ourselves, and then instead of it saying like it says on the screen at the bottom, Good Faith Car United Methodist 2016, it could say Good Faith Car, but it would also say like book club or something. But the point is, you put these stickers on all the books, so as long as the person keeps that book in their house, that book's part of their library, that sticker's on there, and it's a reminder of the ministry that happened that year. And that's kind of a powerful thing. The sticker paper that we would need to get to print on that is, we would need no more than one package, and it's $11.23. And that's assuming we don't already have some somewhere in the office. Door hangers. These are printed on regular sheets of paper, and what it's for, well, it's cardstock sheets of paper, but what it's for is to have, okay, so you see the logo on the picture, but also there'd be some text. Let people know what we're doing. Let them know that we'd love to see them at church. Let them know they're invited. What's the worship time? What's the things we have going on through the week? You know, that kind of thing. Want to print a bunch of these. Want to put them on all the doorknob handles we can find, especially those who live close to the church. And it would require us to buy for $9.87 a door hole size or a doorknob size hole punch. But that's $9.87. The rest is just cardstock paper, and then us print. Mailers, I maybe even shouldn't have put this in negligible, but in free, because we already do send out letters, and this will take postage. But what it is just send out letters, let people know about our program in the mail. Let people know that we're doing this Life Perfected thing. and possibly at your discretion, sending one out a little early to say, all right, we're planning this thing and we're trying not to offset the budget too much. So if you believe in this, if you think this is worth supporting, send us a little cash to help us out with this. Um, that's all. That's optional, but it's a possibility. But the point is, I'm trying to connect as many ways of communicating, as many ways of staying connected as we can. And that brings us to visitation cards. It's these little. It's also cardstock, but it's divisible into fours. It's into quarters. What it would be each Sunday I would take that outline that I mentioned for the sermon and then develop that into a little card so that if you're homebound, you can't come and see the sermon. You don't have the internet maybe, but you can at least get this little card that's basically a paragraph summary of what the sermon is all about. And it helps you to feel like you're connected in with the program too. Again, it's extremely low cost. We give these to the home visitation team to take to the people that they visit, along with their communion and whatever else. And it just seems like a low cost way to help people. Speaking of low cost, we've moved from negligible to low. It's a little bit more, but still no more than $100. These are the portions that you can choose to endorse or not to endorse. But this is all this is all piecemeal. You can always it's a la carte. You pick the parts that you want to get, and you omit the parts you don't. Okay, low cost supplements. For $30, you can get 100 buttons, just like you see on the screen. Life Perfected, Good Faith Car, United Methodist Church. The value of these is to just give them to the people in the church. Let them, not everybody's going to want a button, but the ones who do, they wear them out. People see the button, they say, hey, what's that? It makes it easy to start talking, and then that opens up to an invitation to the church. It's also good for gift packs and drawings, but we'll talk about that in a sec. So, gift bags, right there. Imagine that every first-time visitor to the church gets a nice little bag with a warm letter of welcome from the church and the pastor, and inside there's a mug, a pen, and a button, all with our stuff on it, and it costs us $15 per bag, but we leave them with such an impression, and not to mention a coffee mug and a pen that's going to sit in their house, and every time they see it, remind them of our ministry. All right, so John Wesley. This is a movie. It's a great movie if you haven't seen it, and it would supplement our fireside chat program so well. But to do it legally, it does cost $75 for a church license for 100 people or less. So that would be something that you could adopt or not adopt as you like. But there it is. And there's a few things that are a bit more pricey. Let's talk about that. I've talked to the people of the Pine Bluff commercial. Now, I think the Arkansas Methodist, I can probably talk to them and get them to actually cover what we're doing, whatever parts of it we approve, as an actual story in the paper, because this is a pretty comprehensive deal, and that's newsworthy. And I know some people up there. I think I can make that happen. Okay, so there's that. But we're probably more interested in the Pine Bluff commercial because that's what reaches people in our mission field. A standard 16th, that's 10 square inches of page space, is for churches $131. If you want to get one that's a little bit larger, that's an eighth of the page, that's $196.50 church rate. They're running a deal that they told me about that if we want to do this, if we buy 2 ads in the same week at either price, they'll throw in a third ad that same week for free. Okay, so that's a decision that would need to be made about what size and what frequency, and I'll make my recommendation later. Another one, now this is experimental and out there, but when I think of Good Faith Car, I think of the Busy Bees, among other people, but I think of this as a very crafty church. And, we've got in the sanctuary, we've got a big banner. One's got the Methodist cross and flame. The other one has a dove. And I was thinking, if there was a group that wanted to do this kind of as make a donation of the fabric that it would take to do this, and then the skill that it would take to put this together, wouldn't it be neat to, just for the course of this year, just during while we're doing this program, instead of just having the dove on that, to replace it with one of the exact same color, but that has that Life Perfected logo on it, just kind of as a real kind of tie the room together kind of a feel, a focus point, you know. Anyway, that's an experimental idea, and it depends on people being willing to do that. But I wanted to include that in the presentation. So, what I have now are some optional cost supplements, and this is stuff that you can add on to some of the free stuff we talked about earlier. So, Pastor's Book Club, that's free, but the books cost $41.24 altogether if you get them through Amazon. It's actually cheaper if you get them on Kindle, but a lot of people don't do Kindle. And so, what if we provided one or more scholarships? If there's somebody that wants to do the club, but the price seems a little bit steep, apply for one of these scholarships, and we'll help you out. Okay, that's an optional add-on. Here's another one. Leading up to the time, you know, kind of like in November, we're getting close to the launch. We're making it known, but we're not there yet. People get excited when you have a little drawing. Do a drawing. Maybe draw for 1 t-shirt, 3 mugs, and 5 pens. Whatever. But it builds excitement and anticipation. And if you want to do it again throughout the year, you can do it again depending on what supplies you have and how much you might be willing to reorder. Okay, so now let's talk about the bottom line of this. I put together what I call a full program. It's kind of arbitrary, but what this would be going ahead and buying what we need to make the Pastor's Book Club stickers, the door hangers, the visitation cards for the homebound, 100 buttons to distribute, 10 gift bags for first-time visitors, licensing out that Wesley movie, buying those 3 newspaper ads, and buying them at the bigger 1/8 page size, because I think that just grabs eyes much better. 3 scholarships to the Pastor's Book Club, and enough to do a drawing for 1 t-shirt, 3 mugs, and 5 pens. I added all that stuff up. It's $859.77. Plus, I didn't know how to count in the postage for doing mailings of those letters, but we do mailings all the time. So that's not a significant thing. Okay. That's the program that I just put together, thought this would be kind of a nice comprehensive thing. However, if that's too steep, if that's something we don't want to entertain, or if there's parts of it that you just don't like, I will remind you, you can go a la carte. So the basic thing that I have already planned to happen on my end is that sermon series, the mega series, and the hymns. What is free and costs $0.00, the website upgrade, the social media branding, the fireside chats, the Pastor's Book Club, the videotapes of the sermons, the newspaper letter, I meant to say newsletter there, the newsletter article, the advanced promotional video that we can show, and possibly, depending upon participation of that professor, the smartphone app that can be downloaded for free by anybody. Okay? The negligible cost stuff, you can choose any of this, you can leave any of it out. The stickers for the book club books, the door hangers, the mailers, the visitation cards, the low cost stuff between $20 and $100, the promotional buttons that people can wear on their shirt or put on their backpack or whatever, the gift bags for new visitors, and the license to show the Wesley movie. And the medium cost stuff is those newspaper ads, and then the liturgical supplements. But again, that's not something that really figures into the pricing that I put into the full program, because that would sort of depend upon the kindness and the interest and the want to of volunteers within the church to do that. And then there's the optional cost stuff, the scholarships to the book club, and the promotional materials for the drawing to get people excited about it. So that's kind of a whirlwind tour of sort of my vision of what we could do with this theme to really draw everything together, approach this with the idea that it's an opportunity to really get serious about how we present our message and the nature of the message itself as we go forward. So I'll leave you with this image. Life perfected. Um, take the time you need to think over this. Maybe you have additional things that you think would be good to put in here. Maybe you think that you like something that you see, but it would be nice if it were tweaked in a certain way. Maybe you don't like any of it. That's all your prerogative. What I want you to do is to be thinking about these things, and when it comes time to make a decision, we can make a really good and informed decision. Thank you so much for your attention, and I appreciate the opportunity.